Welcome to YCParanormal Radio. I am Jim Colonna. I am the host of YCParanormal Radio. It's broadcast on 88.1 FM right here from your college. I'm a music professor who has an interest in ghosts and aliens and shamanism and many, many other things. And the radio station gave me an opportunity to have a show to discuss these things. I've been involved in investigation since 1986, so way before those TV shows became popular. I've investigated mostly with sound. Being that I'm a musician, I prefer to use the spirit box, to use digital voice recorders. Video is fine, but video is a little harder to get when you're standing in the dark. But I've been doing this for a very, very long time. What got me started with the paranormal, if I go way back to when I was 6, which is a long time ago, 1976, I was a little kid, and I was playing in my grandparents' home. My grandfather had passed away exactly 1 year before I was born, and I was playing with one of those little rubber band cars that came in the cereal box, where you take the sports car and you pull it back and you hit the little launch thing and it takes off. And my sister and I were playing in the hallway where we were forbidden to play. The car went into the bedroom, which we were also forbidden to go into, and it went under this big, big bed. So, of course, as kids, we stared at each other. I'm not going in. You go in. I'm not going in. And, of course, I went in. I wanted that car. It's worth, a cent? So I went ahead and I crawled under the bed. I remember reaching out to grab the car, and when I grabbed the car, I looked up from underneath the bed, and I saw 2 brown shoes. And when I backed up and stood up, there was a man sitting in a chair staring at me. And he just sort of smiled, and then that was it. I left the room. It didn't bother me at all. Well, what I ended up finding out was the next day, staying at my grandparents' house was a little weird because a lot of the old Italian antiques and stuff were there. But the next day we were talking, and they brought out a picture, and everyone talked about Daddy, which would have been my grandfather. And I said, "Who is that sitting in the front?" And my dad said, "That's your grandfather." And I said, "Oh." Knowing that he had passed away, I said, "Well, he was upstairs yesterday." And my dad got really upset about it. No, you're a good Catholic family, you're not supposed to talk about that. So that's where it started. And I used to try to take photos there my entire life. And again, my dad would get upset. You can't take Polaroids in there trying to look for your grandfather's ghost. He's not there, and all this other stuff. But I continued to explore in other areas and kept going.
That's right, yes or no. If you're a woman, turn off the light. Wow.
So what keeps me going in the paranormal investigation, that's something a lot of people have asked, and the answer is usually this: I have no clue. I'm afraid of death a little bit. Not too afraid of death, but I'm afraid of that a little. I've had a lot of experiences, and I want to know why they happened, and more importantly, which sounds selfish, why they happened to me. I have met other people who have had experiences, but every time they tell a story, I always think I have one better than that. And it can become big fish-like, but my stories are real. I'm writing a book that has all these stories in it that's told in a different way, but they're all things that really happened. As far as the radio show goes, I believe if we're going to explore the paranormal, one of the things we need to do is have a record. And the beauty of radio or TV is that there's a permanent record. So on radio, we podcast, we record every show. We've asked everybody from psychic mediums to shamans to UFO experts to ghost hunters, all sorts of questions. And I try to stick to the same questions, but basically in a similar format that you can go back and hear the different things that people have said. So if someone someday in the actual sciences says, "I'm really going to take this seriously and study this," they have all this material to study. And it's not just my show, but Darkness Radio and Coast to Coast AM and other shows like that, and of course the TV shows. Some of those are a little bit far-fetched, but the TV shows as well. So here's the thing with the 717 area. I grew up in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, way on the other side of the state, so that would have been the 412 or 814. But in the 717, what's neat is the history. There's history all across our state, but here in this area, we've got the first capital here in York, and we've got a lot of interesting things. There's Civil War battlefields right down the road in Gettysburg. So this area has a lot of interesting things to explore. I like the history. As a matter of fact, I was a terrible student of history until I started doing paranormal investigations. And now I go back and I investigate places that have people like Charles Darwin that visited here in Pennsylvania. That's fascinating to me now. So I enjoy that, and I enjoy the old structures And the big question really is, why would a ghost hang out in a place that they died? And the answer is, maybe they're not. Maybe they're transient, or maybe their death is just, multidimensional. So they're still in the 717. They haven't left. So I like that about this area. And there's a lot of places, bookstores and trails, and you name it, we have it.